Now iNabber is randomly catching strays in this ImAllexx drama. His ex-girlfriend put out a long Twitter post alleging all sorts of things against him. First saying that iNabber knew what ImAllexx was and pretending that he was in the dark is completely inexcusable. When it comes to her and Fraser's relationship, she alleges that there are physical and mental implications she's been dealing with, saying that the way she was treated pushed her to want to end herself back when they were dating in 2023, and also just generally accusing Fraser of being a calculated, manipulative liar. Now, Fraser also immediately put out a 18-page Google Doc in response to this, but we're going to read Kirst's accusation first, and then we're going to go over iNabber's Google document. And if you're not caught up, there's been a whole bunch of allegations put out against ImAllexx. Allegations about him being a toxic and horrible partner. And iNabber has been involved in this because he has been putting out updates on his Instagram story about why he was not aware of Alex's toxicity towards his now ex-partner. And I've covered all of this on my channel, including iNabber's Instagram stories in my last video. But let's get to this video. So we'll start off with the accusation, which comes from Kirst, where she says, "I deleted what I said earlier, but fuck that. I never knew what Alex was. He would often comment how he was an awful person and even labeled Alex a narcissist himself. Everyone knew what a disgusting person Alex was and is. Pretending you were in the dark is inexcusable. He knew about the untrue allegations Alex made against Charlie because he was the one who told me when we were still together. He didn't speak about it like it was a rumor. He spoke about it like it was a fact. I spoke to Charlie about it in August. Whilst I don't believe that anyone knew to the full extent Alex was treating Alice, everyone knew Alex was a narcissist prior to Alice's statement from how he treated literally everyone else. He's cold and malicious in ways there is no way anyone can deny. Alex was an extremely toxic friend to Fraser, who's iNabber, along with so many others, and as someone who once loved him, it was hard to watch. But Fraser admitted to me that he put up with it because being friends with Alex benefited him in his work. Fraser is a very calculated person. Manipulation and lying comes so easy to him it is disturbing. He is not the same, but not far different from Alex behind closed doors. What I experienced in my relationship with Fraser is something I am still working throughout to this day in therapy. I will not be putting out a detailed statement because my situation is something I would like to heal from in private without the input from strangers online. What I do feel comfortable to say is the way that I was treated drove me to a suicide attempt in June 2023. Suicidal thoughts and tendencies is still something I'm struggling with because of that relationship and struggling to heal properly. I also got diagnosed with chronic stress from how he treated me. I experienced and continue to experience hair loss, extreme daily nausea and vomiting, insomnia, and debilitating migraines, all from the emotional implications of that relationship. The physical and mental implications I have from that relationship is again why I will not be disclosing what I went through. It is still very raw, and I do not wish for my past traumas to be pulled apart like I have seen done to Alice. I have such deep empathy for Alice, and coming forward with her experience was an incredibly brave and strong thing to do. I wish her nothing but happiness and healing from the truly awful things she had to endure, along with all of the other people Alex maliciously treated." She then continues in a new thread where she says, "Sorry there's a bit of confusion with my wording. So I just want to clear up that I was saying Fraser knew the type of person Alex is, and not that he knew Alex was abusing Alice. I was angry that he was making her situation about himself and acting defensive when this should have nothing to do with him. Really sorry if my words are not clear on that." And in response to this, iNabber put out a 17-page Google Doc basically on the same day, pretty much less than 24 hours after this post went up, entitled it "Brief Disproving of the Allegations Made by Kirsty," which is his ex. He links the original tweet and says, "This is the original tweet and the one doing the most rounds. Seems to suggest I knew about the things going on." She has, image on the right, since backtracked and stated that I actually did not know about Alice, linking the tweet we just read. She states that she was angry and was making this about myself, despite herself making this about me. And for the rest of this document, I will probably have to fill in words here and there, because sometimes his grammar is just not very good, like, "Now with my friendship with Alex have confirmed was toxic." So I will just fill in little words here and there just to make it easier to read and listen to. "Now with my friendship with Alex, I already have confirmed it was toxic. I've had many fallings out with him. Publicly, me and Alex have fallen out many times. And of course, I spoke to my, at the time, girlfriend, Kirst, about it, because she was my girlfriend, and people in relationships typically open up and vent about their feelings. My friendship with Alex is very confusing to me personally. As I said on my story, I'm pretty embarrassed that I didn't just cut ties with him in the past after plenty of fallings out. Alex is a widespread and disliked content creator and has been since 2019. I remain friends with him because I'm a loyal person, but also because back then I was genuinely worried about, I'm assuming he means to say his well-being, and in a lot of cases in 2021, I was also worried too. I'm assuming he means about himself. 2022 to 2023, me and Alex only saw each other walking the dog for the most part, but even then, it was still toxic. Then, mid-2023, we started gaming a lot more together and speaking way more than we usually did, and that obviously led us to making a podcast that lasted 4 episodes. Then he links the tweet where she talks about how Alex was a toxic friend, but they only wanted to stay together because it benefited his work, and Fraser claims, "This is quite frankly a bizarre allegation she's made, that I stayed with Alex because it apparently benefited me. My friendship with Alex only did the exact opposite of benefit me, especially at the time of when I was in a relationship with Kirst. I don't really want to be speaking too much about numbers, but the reality is Alex's channel has been bleeding subs for 5 years now, nowhere near his relevance in 2018, and a widespread disliked creator. But also, Alex has also only been in the title of one of my videos he's featured in during the entire existence of my channel. That was in 2018, see below. And he links a picture of a video that was made on Lele Pons, and it says featuring ImAllexx. I believe our last proper collab with Alex was a Morgs video that was in 2019. I've searched his name on my channel, and these are the only 2 videos that come up, the second one now being this Morgs has to be stopped. As you can see, Alex really did not benefit my channel. I went and checked his main channel, and during the period that I dated Kirst, January 22 to early 2023, I am featured on the ImAllexx YouTube channel 0 times. Our collab after that came in July 2023, after we had broken up, which again, I did not benefit from much at all. And then he links a picture of, I'm assuming, the collab that they had, which is in 2023. As you can see, this allegation is really strange to me. Yes, I regret being friends with Alex, but the suggestion I benefited with him is quite actually wild to me, considering it was a public thing of how disliked he was. I actually was seen as a bit of an idiot for remaining friends with him, and truthfully, that's a fair criticism. Then the next section is the more serious stuff. Now, for context, me and Kirst broke up in April 2023. Kirsty moved into my flat very early on in the relationship after my request, due to some personal issues that I do not want to put in this document that Kirst was facing. I thought it would be safer and better for her to live at my place, and she agreed. We eventually moved into a bigger flat in March 2023. We both needed more space. I wanted a bigger spot. It made sense. During most of 2022, Kirsty didn't really have a space as we were living in a 2-bedroom flat, and one of these rooms was my office. After we broke up, Kirsty remained living in my flat until December 2023. I did not want to make her homeless, and she seemingly had nowhere to go, as she wasn't connected to her family at that point. It would have been extremely unfair for me to kick her out. And I said at the beginning, I'm happy for her to take as much time as she needs to move out, honestly thinking this would be a couple of months. You'll learn why I changed my mind after a few screenshots. So let's get into these screenshots. And just to be clear, that means that there was 8 months between when they broke up in 2023 of April to when she left in December. So she lived with him for 8 months post-breakup. Then he links 2 tweets, the one where she says he's a calculated liar, and the second one talking about her alleged suicide attempt. He says, firstly, to suggest that I'm not that far from Alex behind closed doors is an absolutely wild allegation. Alex, based on texts, was regularly telling Alice to kill herself, calling her a whore, and multiple other abusive things. Yes, me and Kirst had arguments like any other couple, but it never got to that. Now this is where we get to June 2023. This is what I'm very confused about, and I understand is a serious allegation as she is blaming me for a suicide attempt that month, so she still would have been living in June 2023 at Fraser's home. Now I know Kirsty has depression, and does absolutely have real struggles that I'd never deny, but I've struggled to find any reference to that in our texts. Here's some screenshots of me searching for text related and what I could find. And then he shows text where he searched suicide and attempts to find it, and he just does not see anything relating to it, other than joking comments where she says she wants to end herself because her editing software is crashing. As you can see from these texts, there's no reference here. Now I am not saying she didn't attempt this, but if this was my fault, surely there would have been some reference to it. But also, let's talk about how Kirsty spoke to me personally in DMs in May to June of 2023, which is the months leading up to the alleged attempt. In May of 2023, she went and picked things up from our old flat, which was converted into an office for my work. And I went there after and found a note which pretty much was her saying she didn't realize at the time how much she appreciated our relationship, and just in general that she had a lot of regrets. It was a very lovely letter, and it's confirmed by these texts. Then Fraser links text between him and Kirsty that read, "Hello, I just read your note and I appreciate it. It was never that you weren't what I wanted. You don't know how much I loved our relationship, but it got to a point where it just felt unresolvable and has caused me physical stress. I feel like every time we have spoken in the last 2 months, it has been nothing but heated conversations or arguments, and I genuinely have started to feel the stress affect me badly. It was just by the ending seriously unhealthy for me mentally and physically, and it still makes me extremely sad it can't continue, but I just can't see a world where it would possibly ever get fixed, or change, given everything that's happened. Also, you need to do the work I gave you so you can actually pay for food and stuff. You can't just live without money. I can pay in advance to help. And then she starts saying, it's sad for me that you don't remember the nice times we've had over the last few months. Things were, and then the text is cut off. Then he captions it saying, this is me acknowledging the letter, and notes how I say I had to get out of the relationship. Back then, it was causing me physical and mental stress. Kirst at the time was also doing work for me because she used to do research for me and edit, which we thought was a good alternative to having a stressful job. And this is her acknowledging the existence of the letter and what I said about it. And then we continue from this statement where she says, things were getting better and then the dog attack happened and everything backslides. I wish we just try to fix the communication issues when we brought them up ages ago. I still really want to try because I've had so much time to reflect and know where I could have done something differently or approached situations differently. Relationships have come back from worse. It just depends if you really want to or not. Can't is the cancer of happen, as they say. But I understand you don't want to, and although this is heartbreaking, I can't force you to do something you don't want. And then she references the work, saying, I am going to do it. I think I just got confused with all that's going on if I was still actually working for you or not. iNabber continues, as you can see, she refers to a lot of bad things that happened in our relationship, such as Kenji, my dog, biting Kirsty, which was a very public thing. But as you can see, a month on from the breakup, she wanted to continue, saying that it's heartbreaking that I didn't want to continue. For notes, at this time, I was very depressed. My dad shortly before had a stroke, and then at the end of May, a childhood friend of mine committed suicide. So I really wasn't in a good space, especially to try and fix a relationship, but also have sex, which comes into context in the future screenshots. I wouldn't really mention this, but my libido was lowered massively by depression caused by these traumatic events. But now I need to show screenshots from June, and then he attaches 3 screenshots which are messages between him and Kirsty. And the first one is Kirsty starting off saying, I really miss you and I really hope we can talk at some point. Sleep well. How are you feeling? Do you think you could come over? I understand that you're busy or maybe ignoring me or maybe both, but Frey, I love you and I really can't let you go, which I know that if we just talk about it, we can sort stuff out. Is there any chance that you love me too and then this is worth a proper conversation? And he doesn't reply. Then she says, can I at least get a reply? He says, sorry, I've been in and out of sleeping all day. I don't really think it's a good idea to chat today. I'm so dead, lol. And then he has the messages cut off, but it says, with a relationship, but still love someone. Then she says, I was upset with the relationship too, but I know it's because I never knew what you were thinking or going through. I felt distant. It kills me that I can't be there. If I knew what you were going through, I could have tried to help. I wouldn't have taken so much personally. I feel awful. I didn't know what was going on. I love you. It's been hard. And I wish we talked. I hate that we didn't. Then Fraser says, what about yesterday? You knew what I was going through with, and you still pressed me on something that I absolutely didn't do. And then she says, I was panicked because my journal got moved when it was tucked away. And then Fraser responds, you always say this though. You were panicked or you were self-sabotaging. And then we don't see the rest of this conversation. It seems like he started an argument talking about a conflict that they had the day prior. Then she says, KK, are you here? Thanks for letting me crash and on your cinema trip. It was nice spending time with you. Hope you have fun at your gig. I love you. I hate this. I wish you could just come home. Hope you have a good day. Would it be okay for us to talk at some point? He says, I'm just not sure what there is to talk about. She says, I would just like the opportunity for us to just actually talk and listen to each other. We could talk over coffee or something chill. Then he continues, as you can see in these texts throughout June, Kirsty was very persistent on wanting to get back with me. And I understand, it was a terrible time. She went through a traumatic experience, but also was having to live with her ex. But to suggest that I was the cause of the suicide attempt when she was speaking to me like this is just an outright lie. As you can see, I was blunt, but she was my ex. I didn't want to be with her and was starting to feel very pressured. It was at this point my stress started getting worse and worse. Genuinely dealing with this was so unbelievably stressful and made the living situation even worse. And you'll see why I was feeling bad already before these DMs with the screenshot below. Now there's this screenshot from June where the questions she was asking me really started to make me uncomfortable. And then he attaches this screenshot where she says, can you just let me know if I gained too much weight? Is that why you didn't have sex with me anymore? And he responds, pardon? I'm sorry to laugh at that, but that just shocked me. Then she says, it's just been a real confidence knock. It keeps playing on my mind because when I was super skinny, we would have sex all the time, but when I got to a healthy weight, it stopped. And usually there's always breakup sex, and this is my first breakup without breakup sex, so I'm wondering if I'm just not attractive anymore. Please, I just want to know if I'm not really attractive anymore. Fraser, please, if my weight is an issue, I want to know. Damn, Jesus. Then he continues the document saying, as you can see, she randomly messaged me out of nowhere, asking why I haven't had breakup sex with her. I had no idea what to even think here. Not only is this just an incredibly inappropriate thing to send someone randomly, I just think it puts me under a lot of pressure. What am I supposed to say here? Obviously, I wanted to say that this isn't the case, but DMs like this were starting to make me uncomfortable, and I really didn't ever want to share these as this was a breakup and a bad situation. I obviously know she was going through it, but to shape it in the way that she has, and this is the reality of it, isn't fair. Not having sex was a massive issue in the later stages of our relationship, which was caused by medication I was on. Then he says the medication he was on and continues, but also in 2023, my depression was boosted by horrific events with what I had mentioned previously to do with my dad's stroke and friends passing. These things happened before the breakup and after the breakup. But yeah, fair to say I obviously didn't want to have breakup sex, and these texts made me feel so uncomfortable. And then with this text here at the ending of June, she told me that she was being consistently crushed by the hormones that her birth control was causing here, stating that she feels better now she's off of it. But to me personally, it seems that she was very much blaming her feelings on birth control here, not on me. Again, I'm not denying that she obviously was feeling terrible, but to pin that as my fault is not fair. Then he shows text where she says, sent you the link, and then an image. Also, this came up on your laptop. And he says, oh, that doesn't mean much. Just follow the continue and it should fix it. How'd you fix your concentration? And she says, coming off of birth control, to be honest, I'm not being constantly crushed by negative emotions due to the hormones. I can sleep, so I have more energy, and journaling has helped me work through some shit, so I'm not constantly being paralyzed by too many thoughts. 2 months of birth control, so I'm just on my hormones now, and it's wild how much it's made a difference. And then the text randomly continues a few days later, talking about unrelated stuff. Another thing to mention is that it's not like we weren't trying to be friends in June. We even had a day where we went to the cinema with each other mid-June. See the screenshot below. And the screenshot is just her saying thanks for the cinema trip, which he showed earlier. As you can see, we went to the cinema trip after she asked to come with me, had a nice time, and then she shortly followed it up by telling me that she loved me and wanted to talk this out. I was genuinely just trying to be nice and a friend at this point. I was living between flats where sometimes I was sleeping on an air mattress in my office, sometimes on the sofa bed in the second room in her actual flat, whilst she had the main bedroom. Bearing in mind, she did never ask me to do this. I just wanted to do it to make her as comfortable as possible. So he's saying I was sleeping on the couch and I gave her the main room, basically. Even after this, she persisted in telling me how much she loves me and can't let me go, asking me to come over to the office where I was at most of the time, at that point, as mentioned before. And then he shows those texts again where she says, I know you're busy, maybe you're ignoring me, maybe both. So yeah, as you can see, this isn't really adding up. Again, I know she was going through it, but she previously said that I'm not that far off from Alex. This whole scenario is making me have severe mental breakdowns, especially towards the end of her living in my place. One time I broke down when drunk in tears about everything. This situation has taken such a toll on me. But let's move on to the final thing. This tweet to me is the most irresponsible part of the thread. I totally understand she had a terrible time. The situation we're in, no one could deal with without finding it extremely difficult, arguing, getting annoyed at each other. But to say physical implications is an absolutely wild way to phrase things, especially after saying I'm not far off of Alex, who was only just accused of abuse, part of it being physical. And then he links the tweet about the physical and mental implications that we read earlier. And he continues, of course, since then she has backtracked and clarified on what she actually meant without deleting the original tweet at the time of writing this. And instead, in a reply to someone that barely anybody has seen, causing people to speculate about the worst, see below. And then he links a reply where Kirst says, no, Fraser did not physically touch me. When I say the physical implications, I mean the implications of the chronic stress symptoms. And he says, whilst I appreciate that she clarified this, the tweet is still up. And in terms of mental implications, of course, living with your ex for 9 months will cause so much stress, but it was an unfortunate situation that we both found ourselves in. Kirsty had no contact with her family at the time to leave. Her friends had moved far away, and she was alone and isolated. I understand that completely, but to me personally, these tweets imply a level of abuse. When seeing how much she claimed for months she loved me and everything else I've shown her, I don't think that's true. My guess is she will say that it takes a while to realize these things, but how does that justify all the texts she sent to me? The pressure I felt, the mental turmoil this took on me. I even started trying to test my own blood halfway through last year because the stress was affecting me physically, and I had no idea what was going on. And he shows that he ordered a blood testing kit on Amazon July of last year. I genuinely thought I had something wrong, like diabetes, as my body was just not functioning correctly. Turns out my blood pressure is now absolutely fucked. And even to this day, I'm trying to reverse the effects caused by stress I faced over the last 2 years, which doesn't just come from Kirst, but plenty of other things too. Things really went sour in the ending months of our relationship when I started bringing more friends around, some being female. Whilst these friendships at the time were all platonic, it obviously caused a lot of issues and public posts from Kirst referring to the situation. One instance, a friend who was over hanging out with me and my friend was wearing an oversized jumper, funnily enough her ex-boyfriend's jumper, and shorts. This caused an argument. I was not dating this person at the time, and I also had other people over and there were no problems. But this caused so much arguments and tension, and this took so much of a mental hit to me that I just kept having more and more breakdowns, crying, and my blood pressure was getting worse. Obviously, we had a lot of arguments in this period, but nothing different to what anyone would argue with their ex that they lived with for 8 months. It was a difficult situation. She felt very uncomfortable seeing with me with other people, as did I. Then he posts this follow-up tweet that Kirst made that we read earlier, and he continues, going back to her post, she made more follow-ups about confusion that may have been caused by her wording, just showing more how irresponsible these tweets she made are. They are dangerous and have caused so much speculation that is once again affecting me mentally, but also tarnishing my reputation. I understand Kirsty went through a bad time, but her statements do not reflect the situation. To say that I'm not that far off from Alex, given the physical and mental abusive things Alex did to Alice, it's just an outright lie that disgusts me. I have never told Kirsty to end abandoned herself, insulted her looks, or anything. We've had arguments that exes have, in reference to the living situation where I changed my mind in August 2023, asking her to give me a deadline about when she can leave because of how much it was affecting me, due to the messages about sex and loving me, etc., but also just how the situation did not seem to be changing. Kirst was making posts referencing me in a negative way whilst living with me too. That built up to this moment. I offered to pay for a chunk of the rent for the first few months, and it just led to another argument where I wanted a deadline. She got very mad at me. I understand she wanted to do it her way, but this was an out for both of us. Surely if this whole thing was that bad, she would just take that offer and move away from me. And also, I should add, I would happily have paid for her to live somewhere as long as she could have afforded it. I get she didn't want to be financially reliable on me, but realistically, she was already reliant on me by living with me. And then he links text where she sends her a message that says, "Hello, sorry if this is out of nowhere, but I think we really need to talk about when you are going to move out by. I know I said you can have as much time as you need, but I really need a time period to when. Because I can't lie, right now I feel in a major limbo and I didn't expect this to go on for so long and it's severely affecting my mental health. I'm going to suggest you find a place and I will pay a big chunk of the rent for the first few months if it speeds up the process. I just can't keep going on not knowing when change is going to happen because this is really badly affecting me. I want to be able to move on with my life and I feel like I've done my best to help even after things. And as I said, I'm more than happy to pay for moving stuff and rent in another place because right now it feels like a permanent thing and it's got me feeling like my life is in limbo. Please understand where I'm coming from. I don't want to hurt or upset you, but I also need to think about my own well-being." And then she responds, "It's not a forever thing. I just need to save up money, which I'm doing. I can't accept you paying rent for me because I can't rely on that to happen and it's..." And then the message cuts off there. To me personally, it makes no sense giving her serious allegations that she refused to move even with the guarantee of having months of rent paid in advance. I even offered to pay for the tax on this too. I was trying to fix the situation. I knew how much it affected us, and I knew that we were both mentally suffering from the situation. It was unbelievably difficult, and I just wanted it to end. 2023 was a horrible year, but what she has said are lies. Our relationship had issues, arguments, etc., but how she's portraying it is not fair. I may consider making a video on this with even more screenshots in the future, but I mainly wanted to make this for people to read it so they can straight away see the flaws in her thread and how irresponsible it is. Then he continues saying, "Update, Kirsty is now blocking people who reply with criticism," showing that Chloe had replied to Kirst's tweet where Kirst was angry at iNabber for making this situation about himself, and Chloe basically says, "You're doing the exact same thing. You made the entire thread as if you were supporting Alice when in reality you were just using this to bring up your personal relationship grievances, and this is selfish." And then she quote tweeted saying, "She almost instantaneously blocked me. I'm howling." So iNabber includes this in his document. And then he continues, "I've been made aware of this TikTok where she suggests I shut her in a room, not allowed to make noise." And he links a TikTok where it's just her and text that says, "Maybe my ex was just channeling Sabrina when he would shut me in a room for hours, not allowed to make any noise, and would shout at me for flushing in the toilet." What's been referred to is when I recorded a YouTube video, I would ask for no doors shutting/slamming because I was recording and my mic would pick those sounds up, which obviously wouldn't be good for a video. She's kind of implying something sinister here, but the reality is in 2022, we lived in a tiny flat and it was also my recording space for videos. I'm genuinely really confused to why this is even being mentioned because it was literally just a case of, "Hey, could you be quiet for an hour and try not to make noise because I'm recording?" The flushing toilet bit, again, same case as above. There were 2 toilets in the flat and the main toilet was next to my recording room. There was a toilet in the bedroom. This is just something harmless that has been blown into something big. I'm genuinely so confused to why this is being made an issue. I was doing my job in a flat I originally lived in just by me. I invited her to live with me to get her out of a shit situation. It's sad that it's being twisted into something else. Recording with someone in the flat was always something I struggled with, so I actually managed to get over that living with her. I always have suffered with being self-conscious about recording when people are in my flat. I can't really explain it, and to this day, other than her, I can't record a YouTube video when someone's about. Just something about it makes me feel super awkward. At the beginning, I usually would ask her to walk the dog whilst I recorded. This was all a compromise of a difficult living situation of being in a tiny flat, but again, to shape this in the way that it's being shaped into is just very dishonest. And that is how iNabber ends his document. So of course, what he showed is obviously very, very personal to what Kirst and him went through. The text involving like sex life and her insecurities. I know I laughed at it earlier. That was just purely out of shock because I just did not expect to have that shown. And also those kind of things being sent to an ex are also obviously very shocking. I'm sure iNabber felt the same way. And it really does paint a completely different picture on those texts that she sent. I don't know. I mean, maybe she was struggling during that time. It's not impossible that she still had attempted, even though she was telling iNabber how much she loved him and how happy she was with him, blah, blah, blah. There still could have possibly been an attempt in the middle of it due to that, but it wasn't due to somehow the way that iNabber treated her, at least from what we see in his document. He wasn't abusing her, being horrible and disgusting to her. It seemed like just a normal breakup, at least from what he's shown. Of course, maybe there's some stuff missing. I don't know that for sure, but I do see what he's saying when it's like, hey, we just had a breakup and I was trying to handle it the best I could. So this idea that I somehow pushed you into wanting to end yourself due to my mental and physical implications of the relationship is absolutely a crazy reach. And I mean, this is also a crazy reach, this TikTok here. I mean, that is nuts. She was the one that was invited to this flat out of his own goodwill, not forcing her to be there. And because of that, you have to be willing to adapt because he's doing his literal job, which is recording videos. This isn't some abuser story where you were getting fucked over and locked in a room. You were being inconsiderate to someone around you, at least from the way that he's alleging it. Maybe there's some more context that he's not showing. I'm not saying that's impossible, but from the context he's showing it, that is absolutely ridiculous to try to paint that as abuse. And just disrespectful to someone like Alice, who is trying to have her story out, and this person is just clouding it with this total utter nonsense. But that's about all I have right now for this video. If there's more updates on this situation, I will let you guys know. And that's all I really got to say about this, so I'll see you guys tomorrow. Peace.